I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a roll call, please.
Johnson?
Present.
Kelly?
Here.
Mikulski?
Here.
Polika? Here. Leaks May.
Here. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as presented.
Support. Johnson?
Yes.
Polika? Yes. Kelly?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. Now we have a presentation regarding the Southeast Oakland County Safety Action Plan Project Overview. Carl Bryce will be presenting.
Hi. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I just wanted to provide an update on the Southeast Oakland County Safety Action Plan, also known as the Safe Streets for All project. I wanted to do a little bit of a background on why we're doing this, what we're doing, and the future steps. So this presentation was put together with our consultant tool. So they have been working with us through this project. They put this together. It's got a lot of great visuals and explanations for an update. This presentation is slightly different than what was in your packet, by the way. It has a few tweaked graphics and information. So the U.S. Department of Transportation has a program called Safe Streets and Roads for All, SS4A. It's funded by a bipartisan infrastructure law, and it supports the initiative for zero roadway deaths. So they have put a lot of money together, and they can distribute it through either planning and demonstration grants or implementation grants. So the latter is all about funding actual projects, whereas the former, which is what we have, is to fund and create action plans. So that's the final deliverable of this process. We're going to have a joint safety action plan. This plan can be used as kind of a foundational tool as we apply for future projects in the future. It's kind of a backbone to the grant application, so to speak. So it's very, very helpful to have this. So we teamed up with 6 other cities: Berkeley, Huntington Woods, Oak Park, Pleasant Ridge, Hazel Park, and Madison Heights. So you can see the general shape of the area. We all came together, so we're partnering with this grant. We have several partners from these cities, so you'll see a lot of city administration and planning department names on here. So we've been working with them and our consultant the past couple of months through this process. So this is the kind of simplified timeline. So the top row in the red is the project team efforts. The project team would be the partnering community staff as well as tool. So they're developing the vision and goals, equity analysis, and they're also going through safety analysis at the moment. So we're really in this data collection phase. Eventually, they're going to comb through the data, create some performance measures, actually produce the action plan, which is the final deliverable. They also will help us prepare our Safe Streets for All grant application at the end. We've also put together something of a subcommittee. So we do have some members outside of the project team on that. They are helping us with goal setting. They're kind of giving us an outside voice. So we had one meeting with them so far. We have other meetings planned. In terms of community engagement, we had our first public meeting last Wednesday. We had a really nice turnout. We have future public meetings. These are advertised on the website that I'm going to spell out at the end. So just to go over what the plan needs. So these are the required components to actually get a certified action plan. There's leadership and goal setting. There's safety analysis. There's strategy. It's very important to get leadership commitments at the end of the process from each municipality. I'd like to also highlight that there are heavy equity considerations in this plan, which I'm going to go into a little bit further. But these are all the components, so Tool kind of has a checklist to make sure we're meeting all these benchmarks. To get to the data, so in terms of traffic fatalities, I mean, this is considered a public health crisis affecting all road users. These are pretty shocking numbers of what is being called fatal and serious injury crashes, both globally and in the United States. I think it's important to realize that 19% gain between 2019 and 22 is very, I guess, shocking. So that's one of the reasons of why we've started this initiative, and we are trying to get to 0 deaths. This is crashes and serious injury and fatal crash information from the study area. So if I could jump back to this, just to remind you, this is the study area, but if you look, at the boundaries, so we can see 8 Mile at the bottom and DeQuinder and a portion of Woodward along Berkeley. The study area does include both sides of those roads, so there's essentially a 100-foot buffer on all of this. So that is where this information comes from. And again, I know these could be seen as small numbers, but these are all, devastating personal events in each of these individuals' lives, and especially the serious injury crashes. These are the types of crashes that can change a person's life really forever for them and their family. This is a map that Tool put together of suspected serious injury sites in blue and fatalities in orange. Might be a little bit hard to see from your angle, but it is dispersed throughout the entire project area. In terms of traffic crashes in Southeast Oakland County, the vast majority are just with vehicles. However, if we look at what serious injuries and fatal crashes, we factor in those, you can see that people on bicycles and pedestrians, those who are walking, and motorcycles endure far higher rates of serious injury crashes. And pedestrians in particular have a very high rate of fatal crashes when they're in a crash. In terms of crashes in our study area, again, you can see pedestrian crashes and motorcycle crashes are much higher than just vehicle crashes. So there's only a small amount of vehicle crashes that are fatal, but those rates are much more higher amongst these other modes of transportation. Ultimately, these vehicles are engineered to, drive you around in this giant protected cage, but people who are out on the street or out on motorcycles, it's unfortunately a different situation. This is just a graph that looks at the speed and crash severity correlation. So as you increase the speed, the percentage of a fatality or severe injury does increase. We obviously have a variety of different speed limits throughout the study area. In terms of equity, which again is an important consideration for this project, people walking in lower income areas are killed at far higher rates than those in higher income areas. So this breaks down census tract median household income and the rate of pedestrian fatalities. So you can see it's a very different change as you increase your income. And people of color, particularly Native and Black Americans, are more likely to die while walking than any other race or ethnic group. It's a rate that's much higher than some of the other groups. So why is this? A lot of people of color and people of lower incomes live in neighborhoods that do not have sidewalks, marked crosswalks, or street design that supports slower speeds. Perhaps they are more likely to rely on walking, biking, and transit to get around. And unfortunately, a lot of U.S. cities were designed to have their high-speed, at-grade, major arterial streets concentrated through such neighborhoods. So Tool is very committed to recognizing that this is an equity issue. These streets were designed that way in the past, so we can move forward to address this inequity. I just wanted to touch on that. This is a factor through the project. In terms of what they're looking at, they have a safe systems approach where they're placing safety first and foremost in all their decisions. So there's 5 things to look at here: safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, and post-crash care. I really like this slide as it kind of breaks down a different way of thinking. Maybe in the past we just said, we'll just prevent crashes, but we know that doesn't always simply work. So it's a new approach of preventing death and serious injuries. And I really like these next two: improve human behavior. Hey, just drive better. Just tell people to drive better. or we can design for human mistakes and limitations in mind. And instead of just slowing people down, just, put up some speed signs, we can actually take steps to reduce the system kinetic energy to limit some of these drivers from driving as fast as they possibly can. This is our group's favorite slide with the Swiss cheese. So the Swiss cheese model looks at redundancy to create layers of protection. So death and serious injury only occurs when all the layers fail. So you can see the death and serious injury sliding through the pieces of cheese because there's no redundancies to stop it. But on the left, perhaps, if maybe we have unsafe roads and unsafe vehicles and unsafe speeds, but we do have safe road design, which is able to prevent this crash with a fatality or serious injury. So they're looking at it holistically to create redundancies to increase safe streets. Of course, some communities are making progress. I know we have played our part in this too, but they highlighted Jersey City in New Jersey, which has put in a large amount of speed humps and bike lanes and new connections for safety. There are a lot of proven safety countermeasures between speed management, signage, roadway departure markings, and better intersections. There's quite a variety of different symbols here. And the last thing I want to touch on is Vision Zero. So a lot of communities and even states and road agencies are setting their own Vision Zero goal. So that is the year in which they want to have zero road fatalities. So some cities are more aggressive than others. For instance, Ann Arbor is set for 2025. Or a little closer to home, Detroit is set for 2050, and MDOT has a statewide goal for 2050 as well. This is an interesting chart. It does show the total fatal and serious injury crashes in our study area. So you can see it's got a little bit of a hump, but you can see that red trend line is going up. So one of the things we're doing with our advisory committee is still creating our date for Vision Zero. So you can see we have a couple different options here. If we were to set it at 2030, 40, or 50, what does that look like per year? So obviously the sooner we do it, the more aggressive we have for planning for a timeline. So that can range from just decreasing it by 14% or only 4%. But like I said, we haven't officially set that yet. That's one of our, I think, next highest priorities. So what's next? This is our literal roadmap. We do have some community stakeholder listening sessions. We're going to have our subcommittee, second meeting, and third meeting. We will have 2 more public meetings in the future. So website launched tonight. It's actually already up. So if you would like to learn more about this process or to learn about how you can participate in the future, there's even just ways to provide feedback on the website itself. SafeRoadsSoutheastOakland.com. And this is just a slide from the public meeting, which again went great. So I'll leave this up. I'll be happy to take any questions if there are any, but otherwise, please just join us and check out the website.
Open it up to council if you have any questions.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to thank you, Kyle, for your work on this and being so diligent in getting all the parties from the various cities and keeping things moving. I am the council representative for Ferndale for the steering committee that Kyle's mentioned a few times, and I think Ferndale is really, making ourselves proud in the work we're doing in this group, and I think we're going to do amazing things. So thank you, Kyle.
Yeah, through the chair, if I could, I'd like to shout out James Krazan too, because he's been helping on kind of the back side of the grant too. So he's been super helpful for me.
Through the chair, I do have a question. Could you go back a couple slides to the timeline? There you go. Mm-hmm. So do we have any insight into why the fatal and serious injury crashes went up and then dropped down in 2023?
I don't have that information. Okay. I can definitely get that for you.
Yeah.
I think they've been talking about there could be some issues with COVID. People are more walking out and about during COVID, but I don't have a great answer for that. I do know I don't know if it's statistically, very significant that it jumps up and down so much, but that is a great question.
I mean, it looks statistically significant only because of that trend line that I'm assuming is the line that we see just through that hump. But I would love to hear any sort of information from Tool Design. Further, I would love to see Tool Design make sure that the equity piece is very focused on the populations that we are currently serving. Some of that felt a little bit broad. And I would love to see any of that information, hopefully before the next community engagement piece. And I do have a question about the community engagement pieces. Is Tool Design facilitating those engagement pieces?
They are. They're actually working with OHM also, so OHM is sort of doing the public engagement side, but it's a collaborative process.
Okay. And will they be holding any that are virtual, or are they all planning on being in person?
I don't think we have set that in stone. I think they could be virtual in the future.
Okay. I think that would be helpful, just to get some people who may not be able to make it out to an event.
Sure. I think this one was definitely a bit more of an open house, so we did have some interactive exhibits. We have not yet discussed the next one, so we have bi-weekly standing meetings. So I think going forward, I know the next one is going to be pretty data analysis heavy. So it might be a little less interactive, but either way, I think we can add some kind of virtual component to it.
That would be great. Thank you.
With no action tonight. Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you.
This brings us to call to audience. Please, if you have something you'd like to discuss, please come to the podium, line up at the podium, and state your name and your address. And you have 3 minutes in order to state what you'd like to say. Call to audience is open right now.
Good evening. My name is Dan. I live on West Breckenridge Street. I've lived in Ferndale since 2017. I'm here for the first time at a city council meeting because I reviewed the resident-led finance report and then also looked at the April 22nd budget scenario proposal. I'm here because the tone of the Finance Committee report just led me to investigate. The report pushes a $4+ million increase being a small amount to the residents of Ferndale, but the Headley override is actually, when you look at it, nearly a $9 million increase in the general fund tax line item operating item. That's because the override is set to expire unless what's proposed later on the agenda is voted in by the residents of Ferndale. So we're talking nearly a doubling of that line item on our taxes. So here's a couple of reasons why I'm here to tell you why I don't support another override. I have a personal hurdle to overcome regarding just the city manager doesn't live in Ferndale. How can I trust that my money will be spent with the best interest of residents in mind, somebody who doesn't live here? Number two, I think the government has a spending problem. The calendar year 24 budget that was approved last month has a general fund that was approved, which is over $1 million more than what was approved in calendar year 23. Why should I trust that Headley funds, if approved, won't dry up quickly? The Headley funds don't include provisions for lead replacement lines, specific provisions. As a resident with lead coming in my water, I can't get a timeline for when my service line will be replaced. The city project manager does not have a street-by-street plan available that describes when replacements will occur beyond this year. If the project manager doesn't have the project fully planned out, Why should I trust that my tax money is being put to good use towards critical health services? Clean water. The override has provisions for a recreation center. It's a non-essential building. We can't even maintain the buildings that we have, but let's build another one. A council member during the April 22nd meeting stated that the government, quote, does a pretty damn good job at running everything. I would ask everyone if they agree, if they believe that it's a good job when our government subsidizes the cost of Pleasant Ridge fire services. Ferndale's 22,000 residents pay $250 per household for fire services, whereas Pleasant Ridge pays about $100. That doesn't make sense to me. Similarly, Royal Oak Township, also, residents pay about $110 per household. Pleasant Ridge, lower millage rate, and they have a coveted community center that Ferndale residents don't have access to. Doesn't make sense to me. So in summary, I don't support the override. Nowhere in the finance report do I see actions that are proposed for the city to take to lobby state governments to address the alleged root cause of the issue, which is Headley and Proposition A. In my opinion, the real root cause is overspending. So I challenge everybody to take a look at the line item budget that is available on the website and review it. I do want to point out, though, that the calendar year 24 budget that is available to residents, the link that says that's available for you to go do a deep dive on the capital reductions initiative, that link is broken. So as a resident, I can't further investigate it. So again, I don't support it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dan.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Mary Schusterbauer. I live at 2634 Highland Street here in Ferndale. I know you all in a variety of ways, which I'm realizing makes me slightly nervous. I can speak to a crowd of like 3,000 of people I don't know, but when I'm looking at all these wonderful people that I know, I feel a little anxiety. Way back when I first got involved in some community projects, I had a mentor here in the community who said to me, you know, Mary, when you do something like this, you have to do it the Ferndale way. What does that mean? What does the Ferndale way mean? And what he meant was that you need to get citizens involved. You can sometimes do something more easily, you can do it quicker if you have 3 people sitting around your dining room table, but you really need to get people involved in order to come up with a good product. So I want to thank the last iteration of City Council who appointed the Facilities Task Force. They did a fantastic job. They were not, some people I knew and some people I didn't know, which makes me feel good. It wasn't just the same old people doing the work. And then also the Finance Review Committee. So there we've got 2 citizens committees who came together or gave separate reports to lead to what we're working on tonight. But then beyond that, just the committees, whoa, that Cobalt Community Survey, so that's beyond just surveying people in a room, but it really got great results. So I'm proud of that. I personally do not want to live in a city that just barely survives. I want to live in a city that thrives. And I think that we have to pay attention to the budget when we do that. And I don't think if we don't do the Headley override, and if we don't do that, what's that other thing? And that charter amendment. If we don't do those 2 things, we don't have the money that's necessary to make our community thrive. And I also want to mention that this is not just a whim of a few people. It's not a cause celeb of 1 or 2 people. There's national research that talks about what healthy communities are. So if you look at research from the Center for Disease Control, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and many, many other erudite organizations that would give us information, they let you know that to have healthy citizens, you have to have a healthy community, which then in turn keeps creating a healthy community. And to me, health is not just physical health, it's emotional, social, emotional health. And so for those reasons, I want to say to you, I really support the efforts that have happened, and I support the Headley override. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, or evening. Tom Newman. I live at 1522 Kenton Street, and I've enjoyed living in Ferndale for about 17 years. I've also enjoyed watching our city grow into one of the jewels of the Detroit suburbs. Ferndale is the place people want to be, and this popularity has a lot to do with the people who live and work here to make this place great. But it also speaks to the leadership and wise decision-making to keep this trend going in the positive direction. The citizens of Ferndale understand how wise approving the Headley override is to keeping our city on a positive path. They've shown this wisdom by approving the override many times in the recent past. Putting this matter on the ballot this far and allowing the citizens to approve this override again is the only way to keep on the current track and continue to make our community the gem it has grown to be. Thank you very much.
My name's John Thebo. My address is 409 East 9 Mile Road, apartment 321, Ferndale, Michigan. Good evening, members of City Council and fellow residents. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. I come before you not just as a resident, but as a concerned cyclist who recently experienced a frightening incident on Woodward Avenue. An event that not only impacted me personally, but also underscores a critical issue of road safety affecting our entire community. On April 29th at around noon, I was cycling southbound on northbound side of Woodward Avenue. As I approached a Taco Bell, a vehicle exiting the drive-thru struck me. The impact was forceful enough to push me into oncoming traffic, significantly increasing the risk of further collisions. It was only by pure luck that additional accidents were avoided from oncoming traffic, with the potential for a much more tragic outcome. This incident brings to light an urgent issue, the current layout of Woodward Avenue, particularly with the regards of how side streets and commercial driveways significantly compromise the visibility and safety of cyclists and pedestrians. This is a critical vulnerability that we cannot afford to overlook. Often I have noticed seniors and young people resorting to using sidewalks to avoid collision, a clear indicator that our current design is not universally accessible and accepted. After reviewing the Michigan Department of Transportation's 2023 Vulnerable Road User Safety Assessment, it is clear that even MDOT found cyclists who rode against traffic faced a higher risk of collision with the right turning vehicles and encountered greater risk with crossing commercial driveways. And they offered solutions, the side path application, that promoted a design separating the bicycle lane from the main street, creating a buffer between cyclists and motorists. A survey even of Michigan residents even suggested 75% of all surveyed respondents indicated that that the installation of separated bicycle lanes would encourage them to bicycle more. Therefore, I am here to reevaluate the design, implementing specific measures to reduce the possibility of collision, a design that supports a one-way lane that flows with traffic, or a design that supports a separation of two-lane cycle track from Woodward Avenue, similar to northbound Woodward Avenue and Pleasant Ridge, to make safer for all users of all ages. You need to remember that Woodward Avenue and Ferndale will play a critical role in cities determining whether they will implement similar designs in the near future, making cycling a safe, clean option for transporting throughout these cities and creating new economic opportunities along Woodward Avenue. It is important that Ferndale shows other cities what is possible when done right. Thank you.
name's Mike Jimmy. I've been up here for a while. When I heard the city was like $4 million in debt, I was like, what? I mean, honestly, at the first million, you guys should have said, wait a minute, we're in debt. The second million, what are we going to do? All your pet projects need to like either cease and desist and continue what we have. We're going to be paying how much more per house in city taxes? How much the bike lane cost out here in Woodward Avenue? MDOT gave money came out of the general fund, right? Maintenance, did anybody consider maintenance down the road? The water bills are going to go up, what, 2026? Sewage and maintenance, what, $111 every 3 months? That's not including the units? It's a lot of money. And back to this gentleman's bike lane, honestly, I agree with him. The bike lanes on Woodward Avenue, which a lot of people didn't want, they actually suck, period. The other day, when you get to the post office, there was 3 SUVs parked in front of the post office. I'm going across, all of a sudden, this biker comes out. I slammed on my brakes. I couldn't see him because there were 3 SUVs. Okay? You need to just make sure we have police, fire, the next millage election, everything else. You need to reevaluate. Do you think people have that much money? Groceries, house insurance, car insurance have gone up? And now you want this in response to the gentleman with the roadway data for MDOT? When you're doing statistics, when you're talking about crashes, do you have an age group of the people who are in these crashes? Did they have insurance?
Please address
Male and
council.
female? Okay? So we need to have all that before you jump the gun. Any more stuff we have here, it's becoming a joke. You build a four-unit apartment, and then a survey comes out, would you like this? Come on. Shouldn't it be the survey first, then the buildings? You talk about being diverse and respecting everybody. You're trying to create a utopia, but it's not working. Open your eyes. Seriously. I mean, we're going to be penalized. Everyone's going to be hurting. Seniors who are on fixed incomes, how are they going to operate in the next 2 to 3 years? With the Headley, the water, that's going to add on what? Maybe $120, $30, $40 a month? So, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kimberly Lennox, 2036 Highland Street. The Headley Amendment and Proposal A work together to ensure that the more homeowners' property taxes go up, particularly after a change in ownership, the less the city is able to capture from it. It's weird, it's confusing, and it's counterintuitive, but it is not unique to Ferndale. It's state-level policy that affects all Michigan cities. Because of this, for the time being, we have no choice but to make do and decide how Ferndale needs to work within the constraints the state imposes upon us. Ferndale is now at a similar crossroads as we were 10 years ago, and a similar crossroads at which many other cities in the state of Michigan have found themselves. We must decide if our city is worth continuing to invest in, or if we prefer disinvestment from what makes living here so great. Our parks with great features and fun programs, special events like Pride, our first responders, and our hardworking city employees who deserve safe, equitable facilities in which to work. I do not wish for disinvestment for my city. I believe in continuing to invest in Ferndale and into my community, my neighbors, and friends, into our programs, facilities, beautification efforts, and our city employees. I support renewing the Headley override. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Quinn Ziegler, and I live at 705 West Camborne. I served as the chair of the Resident-Led Finance Review Committee. We live in a wonderful city. My husband and I could have moved anywhere, but we singled out Ferndale because of its walkability, vibrant small businesses, and community life. This is the only city where we looked at homes because we knew that this was where we wanted to be. When you make a place a home, you invest in it, both in your physical house and in your community. My investment has been one of time and energy, serving on multiple committees in addition to the Finance Committee. Through these experiences, I've met so many residents who also have a love for Ferndale and want it to continue to be a wonderful place. In particular, I saw the volunteers for the Finance Committee who came into the process thinking no renewal or renewal but at the current level. But after spending months learning about municipal finances, we all came to the conclusion that greater investment is needed. And education is key. Once the committee had the knowledge, we shared it in our recommendation with you. And I encourage everyone to read it and to watch the 20-minute presentation. It is an introduction to municipal finances and is written to be understandable to everyone, even those who have no background in finance. Ferndale residents should make an informed decision to invest in our community financially. Investing in our community can look like making sure our fire and EMS team, who already put themselves in harm's way for us, have safe, healthy, and equitable stations. Caring for our community can look like ensuring our police officers don't have raw sewage leaking into the men's locker room. Loving our community means building a meeting space where we can strengthen social bonds and where our seniors and children can gather for their programming. Now, I don't personally have children or living grandparents, but I still want good things for the young and the young at heart. Wanting good things for others is the soul of a community. And we know these things don't come for free. Without a reset of the millage, we can't build a recreation center or address the needs at the police and fire stations. As I stated during my March 11th presentation, the millage rate will continue to roll back. A renewal at the current rate or even at 18 mills is a short-term solution, kicking the can down the road for a couple of years. In the near future, cuts will be needed. So even though I'm in the top 10% of taxpayers, I'm ready to put my money where my mouth is. If City Council puts a reset on the ballot, I will vote yes, and I will encourage others to do the same. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, I'm Dave Cottrell from 1610 Bowfield. I used to write really well good notes, and then I felt that it wasn't necessary after the previous administration because they weren't listened to. But, okay, regarding the city expenses on Headley, I would like to see better purchasing procedures. I do recall we have a procedure where we favor Ferndale businesses. Ferndale business doesn't necessarily mean it provides the best product or service or cost. I know we've had if I recall right, we had a website that was from a Ferndale business, but it wasn't the best website designer. We've also had a website that I think the previous one where I used to be a credit union examiner. We looked at, with the state of Michigan, we looked at how viable the company was, that these different credit unions were using some sort of financial credit union software. And one of our most important things was, okay, how viable is this company? Is it going to go out of business in 2 weeks? And the last one, yeah, went out of business after a few years, and then we had to go to the next website design. That's bad purchasing. Next item. Okay. I think you need better procedures, making sure you have a request for quote before you sign a project to a vendor. I don't think that always occurs here. And another item is I really question the cost of all the festivals. Are the citizens really benefiting from having all of Oakland County come to Ferndale to have party, and we just don't have a downtown, and it's part. And also we're always hearing about our police officers, we should take care of them. Well, I think one of the problems that the police officers now don't really want to be working overtime all the time. And since they have to go work, are assigned to work for all these festivals, and they're saying, you have to work overtime, then they quit. It's not, yeah, we could have better facilities in the building, but there's going to be other factors why they quit, and one of them is working overtime all the time. And then they go to another city, and they not quieter, and hey, it's wonderful, and then they go. So as far as Headley or not, I don't know. I'd like to see better purchasing and expense procedures in the city. Thank you.
Any others call to council? I close call to council at 7:40. We will now, item 6A is a public hearing, consideration of the special land use application for 3101 Bermuda.
All right, good evening once again, Mayor. Good evening, Council. So we have a public hearing for a special land use. So this is technically a vacant parcel. So we've been using 3101 Bermuda as like the nomenclature for the project, so it technically does not have an address, but we noticed it by the parcel number, and that's what the motion is in the packet, so just FYI. So this is located on the north end of town. This is the vacant parcel just to the south of the existing exterior self-storage area along Bermuda. So Woodward Heights and the crossing is just out of frame at the bottom. So this is when Bermuda hangs a left and then it straightens out a little bit. So this is a vacant piece of land. I believe it's been vacant for about 25 years, if I'm not mistaken. The applicant is proposing a indoor self-storage facility. It is proposed to be about 3 stories tall. This is approximately 72,540 square feet. That's a footprint of 24,180 square feet. There's 482 units. They're interior only. And there's some associated site improvements. So it does abut an existing self-storage facility to the north. It does back up against the train tracks. We do have some residential on the east side. So that's the background of the site. And show you some of the images. So they went to the Planning Commission last month. Their site plan was conditionally approved. So that would be the site plan and all the other items therein, the landscaping plan, photometric plan, and the elevations. It was conditionally approved. They've already sent in revised plans that are going to be reviewed by the team upstairs, provided you, or if you so choose to approve the special land use tonight. Just to, I guess, illustrate this a little bit further, here is the site plan. So this is Bermuda running across the top. The building is this rectangle here, and this is the driveway that's going to wrap around the building and connect to the existing site. They do have a detention pond to handle all their storm water. They have a small parking lot with a bike rack out here. Self-storage really requires very little parking requirements. It's a pretty low-intensity use, especially for this zoning district. So it's a pretty light industrial use overall. I'll flip through to the landscaping plan. So they'll be beautifying the site up a little bit, adding some trees. We require a lot of plantings around the detention pond, so they provided everything there. In terms of elevations, it is colored a little bit with their branding. Signage is, of course, handled separately, but they do have the signs included here. So perspective, this north elevation, this is what would be facing Bermuda. We did have some conditions for the elevations, so they have added some more features to sort of break up some of those blank walls. So that, again, would be handled administratively. And here are some images of the floor plan. It's a lot of units. We do have several ADA accessible units on the first floor, and we do have elevators throughout the building up to code. So the 3 floors have a mixture of different units. We got some bigger ones on the ground floor and some very small micro units on the 3rd floor. Yeah, like I said, I don't think I mentioned this is zone M1. This is light industrial. Self-storage is permitted there only with a special land use. So the Planning Commission did recommend approval for the special land use. I don't want to steal Councilmember Pollock's thunder, so I can let him do his report. But if you would like, I can invite the applicant up to say a few words about this project.
Good evening. My name is Bo Raish. I'm Vice President of Development with SROA Capital, Storage Rentals of America. We purchased this facility, the existing facility that abuts what we're proposing a few years ago. It's been a great project for us. We've put it under new management. We're highly occupied, does well. There's demand for the product in the market. We feel like this site was there was environmental remediation on this site. It abuts the railroad tracks. We think this is a great use of this piece of property. I don't think you'd want to use this for residential or park or anything like that. The storage isn't a very highly occupied use. Most people put their stuff there, then don't return for quite a while. So I think this actually makes a lot of sense for storage. So happy to answer any questions, or if you need any more information. I appreciate Kyle and the work he's done on this. I brought my engineer here. She can answer any technical questions regarding the site. And that's all I have.
Since this is a public hearing, I do open it up to the audience for comment. Seeing none, I open it up to council for discussion.
Through the chair, so sorry, I have no thunder, I have no lightning or,
Unusual.
no, it was pretty standard conversation about the project. This is a special land use, strictly because our zoning allows for this type of use, but not this particular business. So a storage unit isn't necessarily within the zoning. Help me out, Kyle.
Yeah, so, I think this might be the first special land use for some of our council members up here, so this is a good time to explain as any. So in any zoning district, there are a list of uses that are permitted, and then there are always, or not always, but generally a handful that are permitted with a special land use. So things that are permitted, if they check all the boxes, they meet the requirements, we can go through administratively and allow them to open. If they require special land use, that generally means there's some additional concerns, things to study. Maybe it's noise, maybe it's traffic, maybe it's things like that. Will it get a lot of visitors to the site? So think of in like a mixed-use district, maybe an event venue would work well if the site was appropriate and we had everything else reviewed. It's just something that requires a little extra consideration. So it is permitted, but with a special land use, and all special land uses come to City Council for final approval, so they go through 2 rounds of public notices. I haven't received any comments or received any feedback from the public for either of our noticings.
Thank you, Kyle, for the clarification. So some of the concerns were within the design of the project, which was handled at the Planning Commission, was the facade, providing some additional windows, fake windows, just so it looked more, appealing than just big blank walls. But overall, it got unanimous approval by Planning Commission, so it's just up to us to approve the special land use.
Through the chair, if I may. The only thing I want to note is the photometrics look good, but I want to make sure that we're really cognizant of that, because there is, while that parcel is zoned the way it is across the street from residential parcels. So between the landscaping and keeping an eye on those photometrics and how that comes out in the end, just want to be cognizant of that. Other than that, looks good.
Mayor, through the chair, just a reminder to council, as just adding to what Kyle indicated, since it is a special land use, the ordinance prescribes specific standards that the applicant had to present. And the Planning Commission did find that all the standards required in the zoning ordinance 24-273 have been met, and your proposed motion, should you agree with the Planning Commission, does reference and makes and adopts as part of your findings, the findings of the Planning Commission, that all the standards were met that are set forth in the ordinance.
Any other questions or comments from council regarding this special land use?
And I move that after a properly noticed public hearing and the unanimous recommendation of the Planning Commission, that the City Council approve the special land use application for a self-storage facility for parcel 24-25-27-252-005, based on plans dated March 8th, 2024, and adopt the findings of the Planning Commission that the request meets and satisfies the reviewed standards set forth in 24-273 of the zoning ordinance.
Support?
Johnson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
McCluskey?
Yes.
Polika? Yes. Leaks May?
Yes. That motion passes. We are going on to our second public hearing, which is approval of the Special Assessment Sidewalk District. Delegate, is Kyle presenting? Oh, Jim, thank you. Thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So I'm here to talk about the sidewalk repair public hearing, and then the bid award. I'll use the same presentation because it covers a lot of the same items. So the sidewalk assessment repair process and timeline is a detail-oriented one. It's a 21-step process. It starts with inspections. DPW crews inspect every street that's included in the section. Our project manager goes over all of those. And then we communicate the results of those inspections to our civil engineer. They put that together into a request for quotations, and we go through the process. We open bids, and they select a low bidder. In April, letters go out to residents. It's a construction notice. It also includes an estimate on what we believe the repairs will cost. The notice of hearing goes out twice leading up to this public hearing. We have a bid award, typically same council. Contract should be signed around June. There's construction that goes through August and September. I'll get into the sections a little bit, but we do one section at a time, close that out, start in the next section. Usually that process takes about a month. Final amounts are then sent to all residents. Council approves the final roll, and then we are done prior to winter. So a little bit on the sidewalk repair program. It includes inspection, repair, and replacement of sidewalk within 1/10 of the city. We have 10 districts for sidewalk repairs. We do 2 sections every other year, so it's a 10-year program. We do 2 at the same time just to benefit from economy of scale. We did this last in 2022. We do it next in 2026, so we do it on the even years. Typically, there was some change through COVID where we, I believe, delayed by a year. This year's program is about 21% of our properties, and of that 1/5, about 1/5 of those need repairs. And it also comes to 21,000 square feet of sidewalk, which I thought was impressive enough to include 21, 21, 21 in there. About 132 of those properties included exceed the $500 total that we've established for a hardship requirement. So the hardship requirement that council has established is that the total cost is $500 total, and households would make $20,000 or less combined. And then there's some info on the hardship committee process that will be mailed later in the year as we get closer to construction. The city budget's about $250,000 to do these sidewalk programs. The assessed property estimate based on our inspections is about $220,000, and
We add to that about 9,000 for city properties. As there's sidewalk in front of parks or city buildings, within those sections, we make those repairs ourselves. Yeah, so real quick, we go through criteria for the sidewalk replacement. About roughly 96% are either a stubber or cracked. A stubber just means that there's greater than 1/2 an inch separation between sidewalk flags. Cracked is a broken flag with a single crack or multiple cracks. We have some interesting ones that we do find with we have in this program one where 4 flags were ran over by a bicycle and it just left a huge track straight through the sidewalk that is more than a 2-inch separation. So, sidewalk repair program districts are on this map. This year we're doing 2023 and 2024. So you'll see that those are locations north end to west 9 Mile from Republic to Pinecrest, 8 Mile to Alberta from Pinecrest to Stratford, and 8 Mile to east 9 Mile from CN Railroad to West End. And then the rest of the years show the next 10 years of this program. We'll talk about this a little bit more in the bid recommendation, so I can skip that or talk about it. But I will say that the 4-inch flag price that residents and property owners will be expected to pay is about $225 and $250 for a 6-inch thick flag. Are there any questions?
Again, this being a public hearing, I open it up to audience who would like to speak regarding this subject. Seeing none, I open it up to council.
Through the chair. So your request is, really not request, you're identifying 2023 and 2024 sections on the map, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a reason why we're calling it 2023 and we're doing it in 2024?
It's just, we do it every other year. We've just always done it this way. It probably just makes more sense to do it this way than to say 2024A and 2024B.
Okay. Sounds like we forgot to do it last year, so we're like, oh, well, we're going to pick it up this year.
No, that's not the case. We did.
In 2 years, we're going to be having the same conversation because I'm not going to remember that.
Yeah. Now, during COVID, prior to COVID, we did do it every year, but it made less sense. There was more than enough. There wasn't enough work to do it consistently, and it was enough work if we combine the sections to do it every other year. We had economic and administrative gains from doing it every other year, and the sections weren't overly large to where that would be an issue.
Yeah, we first started doing sidewalk replacement program back in the mid-late 90s. And at that time, there were a huge amount of sidewalks that had to be replaced. So I'm not surprised that over the years, it's become less and less because we've been replacing them for the last 25 years. So you're going to get a smaller percentage every year. So it does make sense to do it every 2 years. I did look onto the city's website and looking for the code, and within the DPW section, in the facts area, it says, what do the letter markings say? And it gives the name of it, but it doesn't give a description. So really this kind of goes out to Kara, if maybe we can add those descriptions, because it says, B cracked, C sunken, A stubber. I don't know what a stubber is. I'm assuming it's raised up enough that you stub your toe on it, but having a little bit of the description that you provide there might be helpful for people looking for that information.
Yeah. And I'll pass this right along to communications. This kind of gives a general description of what each of those items is.
Okay. That's all I have, Mayor.
Any other questions from council before a motion's entertained?
Actually, one second. One moment. Do we have any idea of the cost differential between this bid award that we are going to look at further down on the agenda versus the last time that we went through this process, which I think was 2022? Was it correct?
It was. I don't have that with me, but I can get the bid results from 2022, probably by the next time I'm up at the podium, so I can get that for you.
Okay.
Any other questions from council?
I motion to approve the resolution to proceed with the 2024 sidewalk replacement program and authorize the city clerk to sign the resolution as submitted by the Public Works Director.
Support.
Polika.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. That motion carries. And now we're moving on to the consent agenda. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Consent agenda item 7A, approval of the April 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes. 7B, approval of the resolution for the city's request for reimbursement from Oakland County under the West Nile virus program. 7C, approval of the $951,370 DNR Spark Grant Agreement and accompanying resolution for the Martin Road Park Outdoor Recreation Building. 7D, approval of the resolution to observe Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day and proclaim the week of May 12th, 2024 as National Police Week. 7E, approval to backfill the Public Works Administrative Manager position. 7F, approval of the amended interlocal agreement for Oakway Mutual Aid Association. 7G, approval of the proclamation for May 19th through 24th as National Public Works Week. 7H, approval of the updated International Fire Code. 7I, approval of the City of Ferndale fiscal year 2024 third quarter budget amendment. 7J, approval to backfill one customer service representative position in the Finance Department. 7K, approval of the resolution opposing DTE Energy's proposed electric rate increase in Ferndale, Michigan. 7L, approval of the resolution recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. And 7M, approval of bills and payrolls as submitted by the Finance Director and subject to review by the Council Finance Committee. We'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Support.
Johnson.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Polika.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. Before we move on to the regular agenda, there are a couple of the resolutions and proclamations that I'd like to read, and a couple of council members would also like to read. I would like to start with the proclamation for May 12th as National Police Week, if I may. At a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Ferndale, Oakland County, Michigan, held in council chambers, the following proclamation was supported by City Council. The Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. And the members of the Ferndale Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of Ferndale. And it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. Now therefore, I, Raylon Leaks, Mayor of Ferndale, call upon all citizens of Ferndale and upon all patriotic, civil, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 12, 2024 as Police Week with appropriate observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers past, present, who by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities have rendered a dedicated service to their communities. And in so doing, have established themselves for an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. I further call upon all citizens of Ferndale to observe Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 as Peace Officers Memorial Day in order of those law enforcement officers who through their courageous deeds have made the ultimate sacrifice and service to their community or have become disabled in their performance of duty, and let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen heroes. Thank you. And we have a couple of other resolutions. I'd like to go next. Why don't you do DPW?
Okay. So this is the City of Ferndale proclamation declaring May 19th through the 25th of 2024 as National Public Works Week. At a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Ferndale, Oakland County, Michigan, held in the council chambers at 300 East 9 Mile, Ferndale, Michigan, on the 13th day of May, 2024, the following resolution was moved and supported unanimously. Each week, the American Public Works Association declares the third week of May to be the National Public Works Week. This year's theme, Advancing Quality of Life for All, highlights how public works professionals contribute to and enhance the quality of life in all of the communities they proudly serve. Public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to the public health, high quality of life, and well-being of the people of Ferndale. These infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatments, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. It is in the public interest for the citizens and civic leaders in Ferndale to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And the year 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association and Canadian Public Works Association. Now therefore be it resolved that the Ferndale City Council proclaims May 19th through 25th, 2024 as National Public Works Week in the City of Ferndale. We encourage citizens to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they make to protecting our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all.
And this is a resolution recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also affects how we handle stress related to others and make choices. And mental health is important for our individual well-being and vitality, as well as that of our families, community, and businesses. In Mental Health America MHA 2023 State of Mental Health in America survey ranks Michigan as the 25th in the nation for prevalence of mental illness and 20th in the nation for access to care. And May 1st through May 31st, 2024 is recognized as Mental Health Awareness Month. MAH 2024 theme is Where to Start, Mental Health in a Changing World, which highlights getting back to the basics, including self-care, coping skills, advocating for mental health, and knowing when to seek additional help. And the City of Ferndale joins our local and national partners in promoting this year's Where to Start campaign. Mental health management ensures that individuals can focus on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society while promoting diversity, inclusion, and acceptance. And the City of Ferndale is committed to inspiring hope, empowering people, and strengthening our community.
I sure would. All right, so my resolution tonight is the resolution opposing DTE's rate request. And it reads, the mayor and city council of Ferndale recognize the burden of high utility costs paid by residents. Michigan is the state with the highest, second highest instances of power outages between 2000 and 2021, and the fourth state for longest restoration time, while residents pay the 11th highest rates in the nation for electricity. And the sole provider of electricity in Ferndale and provider to 2.3 million customers in Southeast Michigan has proposed a rate increase of $456 million, and if approved as proposed, will be the largest rate hike in Michigan history. And DTE was previously approved for a $368 million rate hike in December of 2023. DTE reported a $1.4 billion in profits in 2023 and paid its CEO over $10 million in total compensation for 2022. DTE has implemented rate hikes in the past to fund infrastructure updates and has demonstrated a lack of cooperation and has imposed a financial burden on municipalities as they endeavor to update critical infrastructure owned by DTE Energy. The excessive and burdensome rate hike proposed by DTE Energy, if approved, would result in a serious hardship for Ferndale residents, but especially those who live in lower and middle income households, fixed income households, small businesses, and operate nonprofits. And therefore, be it resolved, the mayor and city council of Ferndale oppose DTE Energy's proposed rate hike and urge the Michigan Public Service Commission to address DTE Energy's rising costs, which burden Ferndale residents and residents across all Michigan municipalities. Be it further resolved that the mayor and the city council of Ferndale support intervention in rate case number U21534 by Michigan Municipal Association for utility issues on behalf of the city of Ferndale and other local government members, and urge other local governments to support this intervention. Be it further resolved that the mayor and city council call on the Michigan Public Service Commission to officially limit household energy expenditures to 6% of income, as has been adopted in many other states, and to finalize the percentage of income payment programs that are currently being piloted by DTE and consumers. Also, I would like to thank Mayor Pro Tem Alyssa Sullivan of Hazel Park for sending this to me. She was sent that by a council member in Mount Clemens. It's great that our cities are working together to oppose this so that we can actively fight back just a huge monopoly that is continually underserving our residents.
I apologize, just had to double check something. We are moving on to the regular agenda. Item 8A is consideration of the lead service replacement contract extension with Gustafson HDD.
So the lead service line replacement contract award extension with Gustafson is what I'd like to talk about. Just a little bit of context. We began that contract with Gustafson in April of 2021. In August of 2022, we made some pricing adjustments for materials. The price of copper went through the roof due to COVID, and they actually came to us. We negotiated that contract. So the pricing that we've been paying for the last 2 years is the same as it was in August 2022. They have proposed extending those prices to get us through to January of 2025. In June 2024, we will have our state revolving loan fund for drinking water almost fully depleted. That's what we project. Our final year of paving program, water main work, and other infrastructure projects taking place next year what we would typically do is make sure that we have all of our verifications and replacements done ahead of next year's construction program. So I just wanted to include this because this is what we talked about during our update, and all of it is still pretty relevant today. We're maximizing the number of replacements that we're doing. We're working to replace verified copper services at 768 properties in 2024, and that's actually where we get our number from. We've got 588, I believe, left to do. If we just round that to 580, that multiply that by 60%, which is roughly what our lead service line rate is for the total, we get about 348, 350 left that we need to do still to stay out in front of our infrastructure projects. And I will mention that we've replaced about 1,589 lead services and identified 600 copper services, which is about 21% of service lines in our system with that state revolving loan fund. So the contract extension and verifications, Gustafson has extended the pricing to maintain our current unit pricing into January outside of the state revolving fund. That pricing is about $6,800 for a full replacement. I'll explain a little bit. I won't get too technical with it, but a full replacement is not always needed. $325 is what we are charged for verifications. And those are typically done potholing. So they cut a hole, they expose both sides of the water at the stop box, which you'll see a diagram that kind of explains what that is in case you need it. The total cost for average replacement for those lead service lines over the last 3 years of the program is roughly $5,700, which is under the cost of full replacement. Again, we have roughly 350 to 400 that will conflict with infrastructure work. Again, the numbers there, 588 times 60%. And we need to do these, or we should do these out front of the 2025 paving, which is actually the 10th year of a 10-year paving program. And we should do them in front of the 2025, 2026 water main improvement programs. And the reason 2027 isn't on there is we're going to be on 8 Mile Road, and there is less services there. So we've added about 1,000 verifications that we're going to try to do this year as a part of this program to just take a big chunk of our unknowns and use that to prioritize and plan over the next 10 years. 300 roughly additional services that we would need at that $5,700 average would be about $1.7 million. Yeah, so quick overview of lead service line replacement program. So a full replacement is from the court stop at the water main to the meter in the home. On a smaller replacement, we may find that we only have lead between the curb stop and the water main, which would be referred to as the public side, and we could find between the curb stop and the meter, which is the private side. State law says that we replace everything between the water main and the meter, but that is why there's a difference in price. That's why our average is a little bit lower, because we don't have all full replacements. We always have some partials. And I just wanted to go over our grant funding application. So in 2020, we were approved for the state revolving loan fund. We accepted it. In 2023, 3 years after that, we applied for it to draw from it or enter into a new one in 2024. We were unsuccessful due to having taken one before. And we did reapply in 2024. That is to be determined. We should hear back in September 2024 of this year. We've entered an initiative with EPA, the Get the Lead Out program. We're participating in that to hopefully make use of some best practices and some help from the EPA, and then that will also probably allow us to have some additional verifications without paying for those, so that's always good. And we are always trying to apply for additional funding, and we're hoping that this Get the Lead Out program will help us find some more opportunities and grant funding sources. So one of the other things that I did want to mention quick, in 2024, we're working with HRC to do some additional internal verification self-reporting for residents, and we're working on ways to increase our understanding of our total inventory through better interdepartmental reporting. And that is what I have for that.
Thank you, Jim. Any questions from council?
Through the chair, as usual, I have plenty of questions. There was a gentleman here earlier who said that the project manager for our lead service line replacement cannot give a street-by-street sort of rundown of when streets are going to be addressed. Is that accurate?
It is very hard to predict that far out because all of these projects are kind of take place in part with city infrastructure work. So the streets, while it's somewhat predictable on how they degrade and need replacement, it's not as predictable as we would like to set up 9 years, 10 years in advance like we do other city projects. We also, as we uncover and we do more investigations and verifications, our understanding of our total number of lead services and our comprehension of our entire system changes. So there just needs to be flexibility to respond, to reprioritize, to address areas of concern throughout the program. And it wouldn't really be, we wouldn't be able to come up with a reliable 10-year plan. And then I feel like what may happen in that case is we would come out with a plan and then have to change it so many times that it may be less helpful than doing it the way we're currently doing it.
Do we do a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan? Like what's the threshold? Because if we are aligning this with other city infrastructure projects, as you said, we plan those out in advance. And I just want to understand how it is that we're not able to give people at least some sort of timeline if they're on the project schedule and if those projects are coming up versus somebody that's off that schedule that, yes, I can understand that they may be looking at like a 9-year window.
Through that, I want to just take us back to 2021. We passed a lead service line replacement policy that really focused on making sure we were aligning it with active infrastructure projects. We're looking for efficiencies. Last thing we wanted to do is resurface, then rip it up, and then work on lead lines. So I'll say that the first several years of this program has been aligned with our annual paving program. That annual paving program will expire after next year. So next year is going to be the final year of that program. So actually, I think what I would suggest is we come back and do an update on the policy, because the policy really has been largely driven by our annual road paving program. We've really tracked our water main work and our sewer work and this lead line work to that program. So I think we probably want to take that into account. We also take into account utility work that we are aware of, try to organize around that as well in the neighborhoods. Understanding consumers has done a lot of work too.
Do we get a heads up on any of the utility work?
No.
That's fun. Cool.
Yes. Yeah. So the bottom line is we will come back with an updated policy. We'll share the draft out with council, take us back to 2022, and then we'll update it and reprise it for our existing capital plans as we have right now.
So bear with me, Joe. If we're not going to be doing road work and we want to align our lead service line repairs and verification with infrastructure projects, who's steering the ship? Where do we steer it to? I don't understand.
Well, at this point, I mean, the steering is, the control of the steering is going to shift away from the annual road paving program and shift towards the inventory issue. Our problem still is we have 6,000 lines that are unknown and classified as unknown. So we still have an inventory problem, which is why the second part of your motion is to authorize 150,000 ARPA to improve our lead line verifications, to reduce our inventory. But I don't want to speak for Jim, but I imagine the inventory issues where you have the streets with, more scale or more lead lines that need to be replaced, we're probably going to look to organize around that.
Yeah, we do try to prioritize blocks that have more, but our knowledge is not whole. The more verifications we do, the more our knowledge and understanding changes. And we do have to be cognizant that there is a state mandate, and it may be if we choose 3 or 4 blocks that we think are have a lot of lead services, we may end up finding all copper on 3 or 4 blocks. And if we had 3 years scheduled out and we were 1 year in and we weren't going to hit that number, then we would have an issue with the state. The likelihood that we would find all copper on the street and be that far off isn't likely, but that flexibility allows us to kind of pick and choose to make sure that we're able to hit that state mandate.
So then, could we follow up on the point of the internal verification process and the self-reporting? Would that help? Would that help align our activities for those streets to, that may have more lead service lines than other streets?
I think yes. If we had far less than 6,000 unknowns, I could see having a little bit more outlook, as opposed to having a year in advance. We do have a pretty good idea of all the streets that will be addressed. There's probably a happy medium where we could go maybe 2 years out, 3 years out.
Okay.
That would be an improvement upon what we currently do.
That would be fabulous.
Yep.
Any other questions?
I move we approve the contract extension with Gustafson HDD and allow the DP director to sign pending approval by the city manager and city attorney as submitted by the DPW director. That's one motion.
Johnson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. And then the second motion?
I move we authorize the allocation of $150,000 of American Rescue Plan Act funding for additional lead line verifications and replacement services as submitted by the city manager.
Support.
Johnson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. Motion carries, and we are moving to regular agenda item 8B, consideration of the 2024 sidewalk repair program bid to Luigi Ferdinandi, I didn't say that right, I know it, and Sons Cement Company.
I will go ahead and start at the end if that's okay. Cost and bidding, so the sidewalk repair program costs, we received 9 bids. Project was budgeted at $250K. The low bid came in at $204,000. The high bid was about it was $294,000. That cost per 4-inch flag, again, was $225. Cost per 6-inch flag is $250. And I did look at 2022's bid. In 2022, we paid $175 per 4-inch flag and $200 per 6-inch flag. Tree grinding was the same price for tree roots, and some of the other unit items were pretty similar, but there is a cost difference in the cement.
Which I think is a really important point, and it illustrates something that we've said in, the city manager said in his report a few weeks ago, and the, finance committee noted as well, and we've noted here at the table, that this is a basic baseline city service, but the cost of doing that service has gone up over 20%. I mean, that is the reality. That is what's happening with the costs of operating the government. Setting aside thoughts on what's discretionary or non-discretionary, the cost to replace one sidewalk flag is 20% more than it was the last time we did. I just think that's really illustrative for the public.
Any other comments or questions regarding this bid?
Through the chair, not really a question about the bid, but is there an appeal process for residents that think that their flags have been flagged unfairly?
Yes, there is an appeal process that starts with our inspector. I will go out myself and look at appeals as well if there's anyone that disagrees with the work that the city's done on inspections.
And so they coordinate that by calling into DPW?
Yep, call DPW 248-546-2519.
Through the chair. I think you'll probably also take a C-Click Fix ticket if someone were to submit one.
Yep.
Before we entertain a motion, I just wanted to state that, just to remind everyone that all of council, we're residents of the city, so I just wanted to state that I have my big pink bee marked on my sidewalk right now, so it's something that we all deal with, and I just wanted to make that, be transparent about that, and I wanted that to be known. But with that being said, I would like for someone to entertain a motion regarding the bid to this company.
I motion to approve the 2022, oh, I'm sorry, I have the wrong one. 2022, Rob. I was looking at 2022. I motion to approve the 2024 sidewalk repair program bid awarded to Luigi Ferdinandi and Sons Cement Company in the estimated amount of $204,000, and to authorize the DPW director to sign contract documents following contract approval from city attorney as submitted by the Public Works Director. And I would just add that the first year that I moved into the city, all of my sidewalk flags had to be replaced. It was not fun.
That being said, I will second that motion.
Polika.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Mikulski.
Yes.
Leaks May.
Yes. Thank you. All right, item 8C. November general election ballot initiatives to support the Headley override.
Please give me one moment to set up, Mayor and Council. Okay, Mayor and Council, I have wanted to summarize a bit of the recommendation of the agenda and also summarize a little bit of the process that's got us to this point. But I will be concise. This is a city council item. I understand that. I'll begin with the problem that was studied by the Resident Finance Committee that's been referenced here tonight. Council formalized this committee in June of 2023. An application process went out, and council unanimously approved the appointment of 10 residents to that committee. The priority was to have residents who had a diverse amount of property ownership experience. Anyone who's recently received an uncapping, for example, from the Headley override, someone who's purchased within the last 1 to 3 years, homeowners of 5, 10, and up to 30 years. So we have a really broad spectrum of understanding of property experience. We also have lifelong renters on that. We have people from the millennial generation to retirees. So we had a broad spectrum of input on that committee. They were charged to study two things. One, how would a renewal or non-renewal of the millage impact city staffing and service levels? And two, how would a renewal or non-renewal impact progress on addressing facilities needs as stated in the Facilities Task Force report? We will begin with the recap of the estimated impacts of no renewal. On April 22nd, I presented City Council with a budget cut scenario. This is illustrative table that shows the impact of the general fund projecting out to fiscal '26. So you look at your revenues, that just reflects that number, 23.5 million would reflect just the reduction in property tax, but not, it wouldn't address any modeling as it relates to loss of variable revenue. We did model that on April 22nd. That was a separate presentation, though, so I'll spare you from the details of that. That is available on the city's website for reference if anyone in the public wants to watch. And then finally, referencing that service cut scenario presentation. So during that presentation, I went through the target. That would be a budget target cut reduction of $3.9 million from the general fund. My approach was methodological based on our program-based budgeting. That went through 4 tiers of cuts for the general fund. This is what it would take to address that $3.9 million. So the first tier of cuts, we eliminated special events. A lot of the city, we cut back a lot of city general programs. We eliminated the downtown beautification program, which is funded through the Public Works contract with our DDA partners. The DDA in this position would also stand to lose about 20% of their budget. The second round of cuts would be all City Hall and IT. We would be reducing, the assumption would be to reduce the IT contract by about 50%, as well as all other departments. So the city manager's office would have, in the human resources departments and so on and so forth, City Hall would be operating towards charter minimums and basic service level minimums. On the third tier of cuts, that's when we would have to go to Public Works because we've already cut the City Hall and Parks and Recreation at that point. That would result in about $700,000. Now, the final tier would be public safety. That would really be just the last place we have to go because at that point, we still had $1.7 million to cut. As the council and public know through the budget process, which we just adopted, about 55% of the general fund budget is police and fire. So it is unavoidable to, unfortunately, look at those services. Modeling this, what that would look like is an effective reduction in about 34 employees from the city. And you can see on the right column, that would be the future full-time budgeted positions. So that would be, the left column is before, on the right column would be after. This chart shows really, on the bottom, those numbers go from 0 to 20. 20 would be the capped number of mills any municipality that's a charter city can levy for its general operating purposes. Those mills are rolled back as part of the state's Headley override law. And so what's the number in green, 11.4144, is the city's existing authorized charter operating millage. The column to the right of that is not shaded in, that's the existing Headley override millage that is set to expire next year. And that is valued at 4.2808 mils. So that's a recap of a no millage scenario that we've gone through in the past few months. The Finance Committee's recommendation has been stated earlier, this is a quote from their presentation, to recommend City Council consider a Headley override millage to reset the city to its charter amount, the 20, which I just referenced, in the November 2024 general election. So on the agenda, you have 2 proposals that are described. I'll begin with the first proposal, and that proposal will be to support a Headley override. The current Headley override in the budget that was just adopted, the current general operating millages in the budget that was just adopted is described in this table. So as we've talked about, the city charter millage that were authorized after years of rollbacks, that's 11.4. That's the amount of mills we're allowed to levy, unless the voters authorize additional. In this case, in 2015, the voters authorized a 10-year Headley override millage, and that 10 years is set to expire on December 31st of next year. Combined, that's 15.69 mils. That is what residents are paying for general fund services today. This is an updated bar chart. This shows, on the left again, building with us, 11.41 general operating. In the gray is your 4.2808.
That empty part of the bar chart, or the empty part of the gas tank, as I was referring to it earlier, is 4.3 mils. So I would identify that as no levy due to rollback. So the millage is rolled back per state law, and the city is not allowed to levy that unless the voters choose to levy that to support city services. So proposal 1 is described in the packet, would restore the authority of the city to levy the full authorized amount by state law to 20 mils via a Headley override renewal. Doing so would cancel the remainder of the Headley override millage, the gray part. And because of this, the total Headley override request would be 8.5856 mils. The net increase from the property taxes that are being paid right now would be 4.3048 mils. I'll go back to that visual just to walk through that again. So the change here would be the gray, with what's being paid right now and set to expire, plus the white.
Through the chair. I want to make sure that everyone realizes that in 2015, when the voters supported the 5.45 Headley override, we went to 20 mils. And what we've lost over those 10 years is 4.3 mils. You're nodding your head. I'm assuming that's correct.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So the second part of that would be the charter amendment. The proposal in the packet would be to, if voters were to increase the authorization to 20 mils, then to earmark 4 of those mils to be spent on public safety and recreation purposes in perpetuity. And so that's a permanent charter amendment, and once, if a charter amendment is supported, then that becomes part of the operating agreement from the city. That is what the charter is. So that would restrict spending to only those subjects.
If I may, through the chair, that, if you go back to that slide, please. The 4 mills earmarked for public safety, that would include maintenance, everything.
It would include construction and maintenance of facilities. And and we'll get to this more in depth in a moment, but the driver for this was, for the Finance Committee and the Facilities Task Force, was addressing the public safety facilities as the first priority, which we'll talk about, and then also constructing the Martin Road Recreation Facility that's been discussed the past few months. What it would do additionally would be to earmark funding to support Recreation Department operations. And I'll allow council to discuss that being a priority. So that bar chart in this scenario would look like this. Your 20 is still capped, 16 of those 20 is for general operating, and 4 mils is committed to public safety and recreation, which would move those facility costs out of the general operating and earmark it for the 4 mils. Alignment with 2024 resident committee that we referenced in the beginning. The priorities were to dedicate funding for police and fire facilities and capital, dedicated funding for rec facilities and operations, and to retain current staffing levels and quality of services. This would not increase staffing levels, I'll be clear about that. This would retain what was presented. So on the facilities construction assumptions, our assumptions for costing that out would be $45 million in capital improvement bonds. Number one, the first priority that's been consistent is the public safety headquarters. That would be conceive of a joint police and fire headquarters to be reconstructed where Fire Station 2 currently is. And that would consolidate operations essentially, creating efficiencies, referencing back to Facilities Task Force recommendations. And to rehabilitate Fire Station 1 to a modern facility that is more compliant with current standards, specifically to workplace equality for our male and female firefighters, as well as taking into consideration best safety practices for them, for example, not including their sleeping quarters on top of the motor pool bay. Number two is the Martin Road Recreation Facility. So this would conceive $10 million to support the fruition of that budget. City staff have secured $2.1 million in outside funding
towards that project. That would leave a balance of $8 million. That would require a vote of the people to fulfill that, the construction of that project. We have retained, which is paid for through the grant, Newman Smith. Newman Smith expects public engagement to begin on the Martin Road Recreation Facility in June, and to deliver a conceptual design based on the standards submitted to them by August for the Martin Road Recreation Facility. That will complement additional Martin Road Recreation public improvements that will be taking place this fall. This is how that illustrates from a cost and millage equivalent standpoint. So the work on those three facilities combined would gobble up about 3.2 mils based on the construction estimates and debt service estimates that would be required. We'd be looking at probably $45 to $50 million in bonds. We would have to issue those in 2 series. The interest rate would be 4.5%, which is consistent with municipal interest rates today. And the debt service term would be 30 years. That we'd want to maximize that to minimize the impact on property owners during an annual basis. The lifetime of those facilities should exceed 50 years, so the 30 years is justified. But note that once council does issue debt, that portion of the millage is obligated to fund the debt service. So those 3.21 mils are as soon as if a bond is issued to construct these facilities, that debt is now obligated. That portion is. Staffing levels, as we've gone through during the budget process, 80% of the workforce is union. We have 145 full-time equivalents. 80% of that is union. And we have 6 unions. Those contracts are in negotiation over the next year. Each one of them expires prior to the Headley override expiring. So we will be in contract negotiations. On the right, you see the number of union members by union and where our current vacancy levels are at. We've talked at length about the competitive nature of labor and how that's changed over the past few years. We do believe that facilities and funding to compete with competitive contracts in the area, with our neighbors in the area, are critical to sustaining these staffing levels and the quality of service. And with that, council's discussion. Mayor?
Open it up to council first for discussion.
Mayor, did you want to open up to the public first? Because there may be people who arrived.
You know what? Let's open it up to the public first. If there's anyone who'd like to speak regarding the proposal.
My name's Mike Gadry. I live on Troy. So he was giving detailed data. What I'm asking is that if the millage passes, if it doesn't, I mean, are we giving up any special projects? Are we still going to do the bike lanes, construction? I mean, the metal artwork on Troy? I mean, if we're that much in debt, what can we cut? I don't want to see city services cut. I heard city services, I heard employees, I heard this, but nothing else is being cut. And then I just saw, like last week, you guys approved something for $900 and something thousand for a recreation site through a ANR grant, correct? How much money is the city putting into it? Or is it a matching grant? What kind of grant is it? Do we have the money to go ahead if we're that much in debt?
Thank you.
Can the city manager answer that question?
Really good questions, and I'm happy to address those in the moment, sir. So, number one, on Woodward, there was no general fund tax dollars used towards Woodward. That was all funded.
I called the city. They said there was
Okay. The city used Act 51 dollars. That's the funding we received from the state via the gas tax. And we've used Act 51, not general fund dollars, to match our grant requirements. We received I believe, $2.9 million in grant funding by SEMCOG and MDOT towards the local portion of the Woodward Avenue project. So the general fund has not been used to fund that. The art projects are actually part of the DDA grant project that the DDA wanted to beautify the downtown with public art. And so I believe those installations were also not paid for with general fund dollars. The third comment was the Parks and Recreation grant. I'm happy to report that is, there's no obligation on that. That's actually a competitive grant that our Parks and Rec director won. That's $950,000 that would be applied towards the future Martin Road Recreation Facility. So that is in reference to the $2.1 million of grant funding we've secured for the Martin Road Rec Facility. No obligation is a spending requirement, of course. Or I mean, we have to spend it down by 2026, I think.
Hi, I'm Melanie Piana, former mayor. I live at 387 West Lewiston. And thank you for opening up public comment again for those who cannot arrive here on time. I'm here to express my wholehearted support for City Council to let Ferndale voters decide if they want to continue receiving high-quality city services with modern police, fire, and recreation facilities. Please vote yes to put this item on the ballot to renew and bring back the operating millage to 20 mills, with 4 of these mills set aside for facility improvements. Do we want high-quality police and fire services? Yes, please. Everyone in the city relies on responsive police and fire department, and where our public safety experts respond to our immediate health care and safety needs. I want our public safety workers to go to work in an environment that reflects our community values, having modern police, fire, and recreation buildings that are a joy to work in and provide 21st century policing services, as well as fire services and modern recreation as well. Do we want high-quality recreation facility programs? Yes. Over and over, our residents have said so, from young kids, parents, and seniors, and Gen Xers like me who don't have any children. And do we want high-quality general services? Yes, please. We want timely and relevant community information about what's happening in the city. We want competent city administration team from city managers, legal, city clerk, and community and economic development, and building inspections, and a great downtown. And we've made these decisions twice to put the Headley renewal on the ballot, and I say we as the residents, and when I was on city council in 2011 and 2015. And the last time we did this in 2015, the city was facing a similar path: disinvest in city services and the quality of those services, or increase to 20 mills to maintain what we've got. But we did that at the time in 2015 with the agreement that city council and the city administration would figure out how to transform city services and improve it from what they were. And we've seen a transformation over the last 10 years with that council commitment from former Mayor Dave Coulter to the current council now, and I think everybody wants the same thing. So I'm just grateful for the City Council for taking a comprehensive approach here with a community-driven response from our residents, and I'm just grateful to all of you in the city departments and our resident leaders who stepped up to analyze the problem and propose solutions. That's how a good city functions. Thank you.
Leaving it open for community members.
As someone who's been following budgets for a long time, I've often wondered about the DDA budget. You know, it comes from property taxes, and I wonder why maybe we shouldn't be spending all the expenses we do spend on the DDA. And as far as, I really felt insulted when we were asked and we approved the Parks and Recreation millage, and then about a month later we were told all our buildings need to repair, they have to be replaced. I thought was really like fraudulent. So just a lot of things I just really don't trust, or like sleight of the hand and things. It's like, we'd really like to see a lot better use of expenses, and maybe we shouldn't be spending all the money on the DDA, and I really question whether the festivals are even beneficial for the city of Ferndale. And since I believe the city had a policy of really not enforcing much traffic laws, including stop signs and speeding through all the residential streets, and my car was destroyed at East Hazelhurst and Paxton. It cost me $22,000 to replace it, so I don't really like the expenses that we saved by not enforcing the traffic law. So I just really question the expenses and the priorities in the city, and, you know, I don't know if I can really trust what the city says, so thank you.
Good evening, Kimberly Lennox, 2036 Highland. I just wanted to point out something that it took me a while to learn this on the Finance Committee, and I think it's really important because this is kind of where Headley gets a little confusing. So if anyone else is confused by this, anyone, you know, listening at home, when we say, you know, when our committee recommended, you know, resetting to the full 20 amount, and we think about resetting to that full 20, due to the mechanics of Headley, where it will continually keep rolling back from that 20. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe after the last override in 2015, we never actually got to that full 20 because the rollbacks kicked in pretty much immediately. So that's just something I wanted to point out. So giving us that boost up to that full amount is imperative to kind of insulate us from those rollbacks for a little bit longer. And also another thing I wanted to point out was Joe mentioned the net gain of four-ish mills from where we are right now, because that's really important to understand, you know, the math that went into our report, our committee's report. You know, we were tacking that onto what people are paying right now. So just wanted to clarify that.
Any other comments? All right, I'm opening it up to council for discussion.
Through the mayor, I actually have 3 letters from residents that couldn't attend tonight that wanted their information put in the record. Would you like me to read them now or after we go through questions?
Why don't you read them now?
Okay. The first one is from Kate Baker on Beaufield Street. I am unable to attend tonight's city council meeting, so I am sending my comments in support of the Finance Committee's recommendation for a full Headley override via email. Ferndale offers excellent city services provided by dedicated staff members. Our city staff deserve to be paid fairly and competitively and to work in safe buildings with safe equipment. I do not think that safe buildings are wasteful, that fully staffed departments are irresponsible, or that competitive wages are excessive. These are things we need to compete in a tough marketplace that places very high expectations on city staff members. I trust my city council to responsibly spend city funds to provide the high quality of life and city services I expect in Ferndale. Ferndale and our surrounding inner ring city suburbs appeal to residents not because we have low millage rates, but because we have strong city services, charming homes, and a tight-knit community where you get to know your neighbors, participate in local events, and enjoy local businesses. Even if we let our voters' approved millage expire, we won't come close to competing to townships at the fringe of our region that have half our millage rates, with their services subsidized by county taxes and services. Instead, we compete by investing in what makes Ferndale special to its residents, the things that residents value and that make Ferndale a great place to live. We should invest in our recreation department, public safety, our citywide events, and our city staff and facilities. Letting our voter-approved millage expire will not significantly lower tax bills for the vast majority of Ferndale households, but it will lower the quality of public services for everyone, regardless of how long they lived here or how much they pay in taxes. Thank you for your services. Thank you for your service to Ferndale and for reading my comments. The next one, sorry, they're coming in different places here. The next one is from Brooke Ciambelli. Dear Ferndale City Council, I know you've heard from me before, but the final vote tonight for the Headley override, I wanted to remind you all that the loudest voices are not always the majority. Please consider those of us that have voted for you an inclusive, interactive, proud Ferndale City Council that will put the needs of the entire community first tonight, not just those that are the loudest and most negative. We need to follow the recommendations made by the Finance Committee and support their months of hard work and the information they presented in their report. My child needs parks and festivals and fire and police force that can grow and expand in new safe facilities. COVID threw the entire world into a spin. Don't let that global catastrophe make you think that we, your citizens, won't trust you to make the best decisions you can to make Ferndale a place we all want to live for years to come. Cost of living is going up everywhere, not just in Ferndale. There will always be people who want more for less, but don't let them dictate what your voters really want, which is a safe and progressive community that needs to invest in itself. Don't we all? Thanks for voting with your mind and heart tonight, not just as a reaction to the vocal minority. And the third letter is from Jason Storms, who lives on Almont Street. I write to you in support of putting the Headley override into the hands of the Ferndale residents, as well as stating my support for the program itself. I regret that I cannot be at City Hall in person tonight to deliver my support in person. My wife and I purchased our home in Ferndale 10 years ago. Ferndale was, at first, a hard sell for my wife, even though it was my first choice. She favored Berkeley or Royal Oak, or if we absolutely had to, Troy. The schools had a better reputation. There were vibrant park programming for kids, which we knew we wanted someday. All she saw and knew of Ferndale was downtown and thought of us as a glorified food court and served booze, a place for folks from neighboring cities to come for dinner or a good bar crawl. But she didn't know about the vibrancy that was a good place as any to meet the needs of a family. As we continued to look at houses, she started warming to Ferndale, but setting conditions on what part of the city it would be. We eventually found the perfect house for us, a block away from Martin Road Park. We saw great potential in it, and were delighted when the city unveiled its plans to upgrade the park. The parks have been everything to us as residents. Every day, our Aussie mix Athena gets a lap or two around Martin Road Park. I sometimes go there to hit golf balls. My wife, a marathon runner, builds her routes along with other Ferndale runners in Geary Park and Schiffer Park. And now, with our first child joining us in July, we know the park playgrounds and park and rec programming will add yet another level of necessity for our residents. I appreciate that some may find the tax implications of the Headley override difficult, but I have more appreciations for the fabulous city that we now have, and I want to see it continue to be so. Vibrant cities such as ours are not free. I have invested in the city in the past via the Arts and Cultural Commission, and I am willing to support it financially, as well as renewing the Headley override. Sincerely, Jason Storms. Mayor?
Now open to council. For discussion.
Oh, me first?
I just got done reading 3 letters.
I think it's no secret that I have struggled with the concept of a Headley override for quite some time. I've talked to a lot of residents who have struggled with it, And I do support these ballot initiatives. Part of why I support them is because we went through so much with the Facilities Task Force, we went through so much with the Finance Task Force, and that's why I'm staring at you, Quinn, not to be creepy. I appreciate being able to have the conversation with you about my concerns and where I could see opportunity to alleviate my concerns. My concerns have always been about not this council, future councils. Once it's out of our hands, once I am off this council, how do we make sure that the priorities that we want to set forth are kept safe through the future, indefinitely? And really, that's where the concept of the special millage and the charter amendment came into play. And when you and I talked about that, it just brought me a sense of peace, because in that, it provided a way that I could find it as an opportunity to support this wholeheartedly and say, yes, this is going to protect our facilities. It's going to allow us, and not just allow us, but force us to maintain our facilities. And beyond that, it also protects us from the rhetoric surrounding potentially disinvesting from our police, disinvesting from our parks, disinvesting from our fire, because it provides for operational stability as well. And those were critical for me. I felt very, very strongly about it. I still feel very strongly about it. I have 4 points that I want to go through because I jotted them down so that I could remember what my 4 points were in the moment while I'm sitting at the dais. The special millage is dedicated funding. It is, again, I think I described it to the rest of this council body as handcuffs. I meant it. It is handcuffs for not just this council, but future councils, to dedicate the $4 million net effect to the basic improvement, maintenance, operation of police and fire facilities, as well as recreation services. And I would say recreation services, we have seen time and time again, people come to this council and say that of all the priorities, they really want us to invest in recreation. It provides for operational stability, like I said. It secures dedicated funding. The amendment helps protect the city's public safety and recreational services from unexpected financial shortfalls. It increases transparency and accountability. And that is something that I can't state more, that it is so critical within this. Trust happens when leaders are transparent. This forces it. And it forces it, again, not just for us, but for every future council. And then again, it is a strategic use of funds. If this is our priority, if we have said this is our priority for years now, it is forcing us to go down that path, again, not just this council, but future councils. So I absolutely support this. I understand the discomfort. I understand the discomfort with all expenses that we are going to be faced. Water, everything that you have seen coming down the pipeline, all of those are increasing. We saw it tonight with our sidewalk repair program. But again, I do support this, and I am comfortable with the ballot language as presented. And I do want to commend Councilman, why can't I remember, Donnie, Councilman Donnie. I can't remember your last name today, but I commend your finessing some of the language that would allow us to do something like this with a special charter provision.
Next. I mean, I don't really have much more to say that I haven't already said at previous council sessions, that I didn't say last year on the campaign trail as a candidate. I still believe I'm that council member that thinks we're doing a damn good job, and I still think we're doing a damn good job. And I want to keep doing a damn good job. And the only way to do that is with resources. And I'm a taxpayer here in Ferndale. I purchased my home only 3 years ago, so I will bear a much heavier burden from this Headley than a longer-term resident because my property uncapped more recently. I value what we have here in Ferndale, and I want to keep what we have here in Ferndale. I want a strong police department. I want a strong fire department. I want a strong recreation department. My colleague, Mayor Pro Tem, is correct. The thing we hear the most from the vast majority of residents is how much they value recreation and the spaces and the programs that this city provides its residents for its family, our families to grow, to thrive, places for the community to come together, to create community. Creating a recreation center, the Martin Road Park Community Center, is so vital. It's something we need to do. I chaired the Facilities Task Force, so you can thank me for all the bad news about city facilities if you wish to find someone to blame. That's me. And that motivated me to take that step and to run for council so that I could do something about it. And not only do I want to do something about it, not only do I support these ballot initiatives, but I will gladly write that property tax check. I will put my money where my mouth is. I will pay that money. I don't lack the cognizance that this is a big ask. And I am committed to following through on the concerns that many residents have raised about financial transparency, about costs and expenses, and where there may be efficiencies, where we could find cuts. I'm not ruling that out. I don't think any of my colleagues would say we would rule out that step. Of course, we should always be scrutinizing our budget and doing what we do. But as we saw earlier tonight, a 20% increase on sidewalk flags from the last time we purchased them. And that's just sidewalk flags. That's just cement. We're seeing that in all of the other inputs to services, all of the other inputs to city government. To even maintain the same baseline level of services that we are delivering, we have to have more resources. But I think that it is really important that we continue to center the resident input on this, that we continue to engage in the dialogue with the residents, that this council and this city government continue to engage directly through special committees like the Finance Review Committee, that it continue to have listening sessions, that we encourage residents to keep coming here to public comment, to let us know how you feel, whether you agree with us or don't agree with us. I want you to come and I want you to say that. I want you to send me an email. I want you to call me so that we can keep talking this through together. But tonight, I support these items because I support continuing to have a city that is vibrant, that is a place that people want to call home.
Yeah, I too just want to say that I do support this as written. I recently just went to Birmingham, Alabama with the DDA for a Main Street America conference, and I was really proud to be there. I met so many different people in different states, from DC to Seattle to Idaho, who knew about Ferndale because Ferndale's on the map. We've already invested in our city and we're so ahead of the game. Ferndale won an award, I think, over a decade ago, and I would hate to see all the progress and everything that we've put into the city to go backwards and to disinvest in that. I've talked to at least 50 different residents. I went and knocked on a few different doors and talked to a few different people to ask them what they want to see. And they wanted to see the money earmarked and towards facilities and a recreation center. So I'm really proud as a council that we came together and we're earmarking those funds, and you know, it's up to the residents now, so.
Through the chair. I'm glad you all spoke because then I don't have to say as much. I want to take it from a little bit different perspective. So in 2015, we voted to reset at 20 mills. And today, we stand at 15.7. So we've lost 4.3 mils in the last 10 years, yet we're still able to balance the budget. And that's because of that override that was passed. We've made a lot of cuts. We've trimmed a lot of fat over the last 10 years, and that's evident through the fact that we've been able to balance the budget and still lose 4.3 mils in the last 10 years. So if you look at it this way, what we're really asking is for what you're paying today plus 4 mils to dedicate to police, fire, and recreation facilities. And we'd still be able to offer all the services that we provide you today going further down the road. I support this language. I support it really because the residents presented it. It's a group of residents that came from many different walks of life, all parts of the city, new residents that have been here for decades. They sat down, they respected one another's opinions, but ultimately they all came to the same conclusion, that if we want to continue with the great services and the great community that we have, we're going to have to support this. So I'm supporting it today to put it on the ballot, and I hope that the people support it in November.
Well, that's what I get for going last. Everybody said everything. So yes, I do concur that the birth of this proposal came about from residents. And that's what makes me most proud, because it's the residents of that financial task force that came together, spent 6 or 7 months every week of their time to discuss how we can fiscally secure city services. That means a lot to me, because this group of residents, they came together and had to study and propose ideas and hash it out amongst one another. I know for a fact that some of the residents of that committee were not in favor of this and had to really come together and research what it is that was being proposed. And I'm proud to say they came up with a report that is being distributed amongst the cities, being distributed amongst other cities, because the Headley and Proposal A is so difficult to understand. That took a lot of their time, and I'm grateful that they took the time to do that. Like Councilmember Polika said, these are individuals that came from all walks of life. Homeowners, 1-year ownership to 30 years ownership, renters, millennials in their 30s, parents of school-age children, retirees. This is coming from you. This is coming from you. And so that is why I am definitely in support of putting this on the ballot, for you to decide, for us to decide as a community. I'm in support of the ballot language, and I'm going to give it to you. Any other questions? We need a motion.
I move we approve the proposed resolution and ballot language for a Headley override as submitted by the city manager.
Second.
Johnson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Polika?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes. That motion carries.
Motion 2, I move to approve the proposed resolution for a charter amendment to establish a special purpose millage to support police and fire facilities and recreation facilities and operations as submitted by the city manager.
Support.
Polika?
Yes.
Mikulski?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Kelly?
Yes.
Leaks May?
Yes. And that motion also carries. With that being said, residents, we'll see you at the ballot. We'll see you in November at the polls. Thank you. So now we are at the point of council where it is called to council, and I'm going to hand it over to the city manager for department updates.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to begin with Chief Emmy. Just one more summary of the week's events for Police Observation Week, Observance Week.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I want to cordially invite council and the public to attend our Police Memorial Week observance. It's this Wednesday at 10 a.m. out front of City Hall in the Police Department. There'll be light refreshments in the PD lobby afterwards. It's very short observance and then just socializing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Manuel from Parks and Recreation has some exciting news to share.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Some quick updates from the Parks and Recreation Department. For one, last week we were fortunate enough to be in a position to open up our summer camp registration. If you can recall previously when we had initially 50 people per session that was available, it filled up in 3 minutes. So we were actually able to go back, hire additional staff, get additional transportation for each of the week's field trips, and now we have it available for 80 people per session. Those spots are currently being filled from the wait list, and we've had to work through a process due to some issues that were happening with our registration software. But there are some available spots that are not currently subject to the wait list. At least half of the available sessions remain available for people to just straight up register for now. Our summer camp operates from June 17th to August 23rd, Monday through Friday, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is $175 per session, and more information is available on the city website. We also want to make sure that everybody is aware that we're going to be holding our bike rodeo this Thursday. It'll be taking place at Garbett Park from 6 to 7 p.m. It is an opportunity for young children to come out, bring their bicycles, and learn about traffic safety and being safe out there in the traffic system. We're going to, the event is going to be happening in coordination with police and fire, who are going to be a big help to us in putting on this event. We will have opportunities for people to get their bikes registered. We'll have opportunities for people to decorate their bikes, and we'll have some light snacks and refreshments out there. It's free to the public, so just come out and join us. And lastly, I want to talk about park updates. Wilson Park is currently under construction. Construction began, I believe, last week. And with that being said, the park will remain closed to the public until late summer, when we anticipate that the construction will be completed. This phase of Wilson Park construction will include a new walking path, a new pavilion, a new playground, and some parking lot feature upgrades, among some other things, some trash and recycling bins and stuff like that. The dog park will remain open to the public for the duration of this construction. That is important to note. It is the only feature that will remain open and operational during this phase of construction. Everything else will be closed. The construction will be taking place typically from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Saturday during this period. And any residents in or around Wilson Park should have already received mailers with information about what the specifics of the construction will be and how it'll affect their day-to-day lives. And for more information about that, you can visit the Parks Planning page on our city website. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Next, the Finance Director is going to rivet us with news of charts of accounts.
Yay!
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just wanted to give a quick update. We've been, and you've heard me talk about this before, we've been working on our chart of accounts update that's mandated by the state for the last 7 months. This Wednesday, we will be implementing that new chart of accounts. And so a couple of things that I want to put, a couple of caveats I want to put out there. First and foremost, I want every City of Ferndale employee within the sound of my voice to know you are not to log into BSNA on Wednesday morning.
I got the memo.
Yeah.
We all got the memo.
I'm glad. Secondly, because BSNA would be down, we often have residents that come in to make payments and what have you, and we will not be able to do that for the first part of the day. They still use the Dropbox. We have a Dropbox outside. They can drop those payments in the Dropbox, and we'll process them once the system comes back up. The question that I've been getting the most is how long is it going to take? I cannot tell you that question. I cannot answer that question. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. We will start the upgrade around 7 o'clock in the morning, and it will run until it's complete. We really didn't have a lot of say-so in the dates because BSNA kind of sets the schedule, and we just have to get in where we fit in. And so I'm hoping it'll be done early morning, but I can't say that for sure because I don't know. If they hit a hiccup or what have you, then it's going to delay that process. So again, I just wanted to give everybody an update that we are close to the end of this long journey. And for the directors, that you will be getting updated crosswalks for new segments for your departments in the next day or so.
Through the chair.
Questions? Yes.
How is this going to impact online payments, people who pay for water bills, all of that online?
Once the upgrade goes through, it'll be business as usual.
Okay, but during that time,
when it's down, if they're
in,
trying to pay online while the system is down, they will not be able to access the system.
okay, are we going to put like a big banner on the website
Yes.
that says, we can't take payments right now? Okay.
Yes. I've got with communications, and they're going to be putting some stuff on the website as well as social media, so we're prepared for that as well.
But they can come in and bring those payments in.
Yes, they can.
Can you also send those crosswalks to me?
I will, because I know you'll be digging into it. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Phil. Next, Chief Robinson.
But tonight, just one kind of exciting announcement. We are going to Memorial Day, it's a busy day for the fire department because we start in Pleasant Ridge, the parade, and then end at the Memorial Mall right in front of Fire Station 1. And we figured it was a great opportunity to open our doors and invite the public into our fire station. Parking is an issue around there, but when everybody's already on foot and down there enjoying the festivities, we want to take advantage of that. We'll have some light refreshments, balloons for the kids, but we really want to provide an opportunity for people to feel welcome, come in, tour the station, talk to the firefighters, and, and that will be from 11 to 1 on Memorial Day. So it should be right about the conclusion of the ceremonies, and then come over and have some fun with us.
Through the chair. Earlier, a resident expressed a comment about the city subsidizing Ferndale's fire services to Pleasant Ridge and Royal Oak Township. I want to make a clarification, but I think it's great if you're up there to correct me. Royal Oak Township, we only provide fire service. We do not provide EMS service, correct?
Correct. And if we're called there because their contractor EMS is not available, then just like with any EMS call we provide, we bill for that individual service we provided.
Okay. So that's why Royal Oak is a little bit cheaper than what we pay, because they're not getting all of our service.
Right, they do not get the full range of the services our fire department provides, sorry.
And Pleasant Ridge pays a lower rate because we actually don't provide them as much service as we do to the city of Ferndale. The rates are not based on how many houses we have, it's how often you have to go to a call in the city that determines how much you're going to charge someone.
Yeah, and I just want to make sure, because I want to have full transparency and I understand what you're saying, but I want to make sure everybody else understands. Sure. So our contract, we have contracts, both those communities contract and pay money to Ferndale to have us as their fire department. Royal Oak Township contracts for only a portion of the services our fire department provides. Pleasant Ridge contracts with us to get mirror image, so everything we provide, all the services we provide City of Ferndale, we seamlessly provide Pleasant Ridge. But like you said, the volume of calls there is not equitable to the volume of calls here. Yeah, I think even if we break it down, we do run those numbers, and, that was provided when we insured our contract. Our last contract was on par, It looked at the percentage of calls going to them and all that, so yeah. So what we're talking about, we don't provide as many services, the quantity of services, the range of services, they get the full gamut from us, but they just need us a whole lot less. They use our services at a much lower frequency.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah,
I
no
appreciate
problem.
it.
Thank you, Chief, and I want to also publicly congratulate you on your appointment as Chair of the Southeast Michigan Fire Chiefs Association. We're lucky enough to attend that and honor that last week. DPW Director James Jamison.
Just have a few quick updates. With service Memorial Day, trash will be delayed by 1 day. Just a general reminder, we're in the middle of construction season. We've got a lot going on. We're getting a lot of calls, people asking what's going on their street. The easiest way to figure that out is to Google Ferndale construction schedule, submit a C-click fix, or call us at 248-546-2519. Woodward updates, a few quick updates, items of note. The pavement marking is nearly complete. Delineators have almost all been installed. There's going to be some yellow delineators that are being installed in the middle of the bike lanes very soon. We're excited about those. We're excited that this project's coming to a close. It should be mostly completed by the end of the month. I probably should have said I hesitate to even say that. Hopefully by June, we're good, and all we'll have left is some punch list items like cleanup, turf and irrigation, restoration, and some catch basin cleaning. So, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll restate that it's the end of June is what we're expecting, Jim. Okay, I'm working my way down the list. Next, our communications specialist, Riley Coleman, can give updates on behalf of the DDA.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I actually have two updates for you. One from the Special Events Director. He would like to remind you about the Memorial Day Parade that is on Monday, May 27th at 10 a.m. It is at the intersection of Livernois and Oak Ridge, and the parade concludes at the Memorial Wall. I designed a map that kind of makes it a little easier to see the route, so you can find that at ferndalemi.gov. It's on the homepage, or we have a Facebook event. It's facebook.com/ferndale.michigan, and it's on there. And children are also encouraged to bring their bikes to the bike parade as well. From our DDA, the Ferndale Arts and Beautification Commission will be hosting the 4th annual 9-on-9 concert series at Schiffer Park, beginning on Sunday, July 14th, and continuing weekly throughout the summer. Musicians are still able to register, but there's very, very limited spots, so I would definitely recommend to get on that if you're interested. And then there's also going to be some self-guided art walks, which include live artists and interactive creative experiences, and businesses are going to be encouraged to set up sidewalk sales, events, and special attractions. So you can learn more about all these things at downtownferndale.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Riley and the DDA. Our city clerk.
I just want to share a big thank you to our wonderful residents who served as election inspectors for the May 7th election. And then also, as Riley just mentioned, May 27th is Memorial Day, so next city council meeting will occur on May 28th, which is a Tuesday.
Good reminder, City Hall will be closed in observance of Memorial Day on that Monday. And that will conclude our updates. Mayor, back to you.
I will now open it up to the council, and I'll start with our Mayor Pro Tem.
I don't have any updates today, but I do have an ask of our city manager. We've talked a lot about budget tonight, and funding and everything in between. I was hoping that as we are facing these quarterly budget adjustments, that we can start asking our department heads to identify efficiencies. I'd like those spelled out in a presentation during that time period so that we can showcase where we are making cuts, where we have efficiencies, things like the quint that our fire chief proposed during our budget process, it's a fabulous cost efficiency. Likewise with our CED director, Roger. He proposed streamlining the code enforcement department, and there's an actual appreciable cost savings there. So I'd really like to start getting those out in front of council during this process on a more regular basis.
Yeah,
That's all I have for tonight.
Through the chair, the Finance Committee report recommended that as well, and we are working on our first annual efficiencies report that is expected to be deliverable before the prior fiscal year.
Great.
I just wanted to point out and thank my neighbor Otto for being here today. A young resident of Ferndale who's looking to get involved, and he reached out to me and he reached out to our mayor to ask ways that he can get involved. So he's learning about the Headley right now and looking to get involved in that regard. So I wanted to thank you for that. And then also the Ferndale seniors are going tomorrow to Mackinac for their trip, and they're so excited. So I just wanted to wish them safe travels, and I hope they have so much fun. I can't wait to hear all about it.
Councilmember Polka?
I knew I should have wrote that one down. I have two things. One, just a reminder that Ferndale Pride is coming up in a month. Now, less than a month, 3 weeks. And I did put in for a request for our proclamation for the next council meeting, as well as the request to raise the flag on city property. So that has already been submitted. And the only other thing that I want to share is, over the next several months, there's going to be a lot of conversation, and a lot of people are going to be sharing a lot of information, and they're going to sound like experts. I just ask that you please be careful listening to people who spout off numbers and data without providing any reference points. It's easy to listen to the things that you want to hear that may be difficult. That you want to hear instead of listening to the difficult conversations and listening to the hard truths. I encourage you to listen to the hard truths and make your decisions based on facts and proven data. And I am always available to have any conversation with you about what's in the budget, what can and can't be cut. Present your ideas. I'm more than willing to talk to you about any item in the budget and say why this is needed, or why we can't do this, or why we can do that. Please, reach out to us. We have information that we're more than willing to share with you. But I just ask that you not listen to the loud, angry voices. Thank you.
I just have one thing. I wanted to thank Chief Emmy and Director Jameson and a couple of other folks who have been really responsive when I have sent some questions, my pestering questions over the last couple weeks about, citizen concerns, resident concerns about a variety of things they were seeing around in the community or had heard of, and just getting very prompt responses and thorough and taking seriously resident concerns. I really appreciate it as a council member, but I also really appreciate it as a resident, to know that folks are on the ball and they're up to speed on what's going on. So I just appreciate it. And of course, to the city manager, who also is extremely responsive to my many questions.
I also would like to share that the State of the City is happening tomorrow evening at Affirmation, 7 o'clock. But prior to that, I believe 5:30, 6 o'clock, will be a volunteer appreciation. Again, city government depends on volunteers like some who are in the audience tonight, and I look forward to celebrating you and all of your contributions to city efforts and city initiatives. And I also look forward to sharing why I love to call Ferndale our home. I hope you can make it, 7 o'clock affirmations to learn what's so great about this community and why I'm so proud to be serving. With that being said, this council meeting I call this council meeting to adjourn at 9:39. Thank you.